Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the Jason's Take On. I'm Jason Whitehead here in Washington, D.C., along with my co-host, Jason Noble. Say hello, Jason.
Hello, Jason. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, from a very dark and cold London.
We're very excited today to have another great guest with us. Marten Jagers is here, and Marty is the co-founder of this great technology company called StratApp. And I love StratApp. I'm a huge fan. It's this fantastic tool for helping you define your business strategy and then drill down into your daily work so you always know what you should be doing and how it contributes to your overall goals. We use StratApp internally at Success Chain, and we're partnering with them, and we're really excited to have him here. Marty's going to share his insights and experience on where organizations struggle with building out their strategies and then actually turning these into goals and outcomes. And his insights apply if you're building an overall strategy, or if you're focused on how to define and implement your customer success strategy or user adoption strategy. Really great stuff, and it's been a real pleasure to get to know Marty and to learn from him as well too. Marty, thank you so much for being here.
Very excited to be here, guys.
Yeah, and excited too. Marty's down in Australia here, so we've got all the great time zones covered. I'm pretty excited about
another true global podcast.
Which means somebody's up early.
Exactly. It's not me.
No.
So Marty, to jump in, can you just go ahead and give a brief introduction and tell us a little bit both about your background and StratApp and how you guys help customers?
Yeah, fantastic. So first of all, thank you very much, Jason. I'm really excited to join you guys. Actually, just a bit of background about myself. I come from a finance background originally with two great companies, American Express and ANZ Bank here in Australia. And for the better part of 20 years, I've been in the technology space. I was very privileged to partner with the founders at a great company, Seattle-based company called Concur, to lead their Asia Pacific business. And we did that for the better part of 15 years. And even what we're about to talk about, we'll not necessarily talk about StratApp here, but I'll share with you the experiences that I had leading a young business and growing it to a sizable business, the challenges I had, which actually led to some of the thinking of StratApp. And then in 2017, I was very privileged to partner with an incredible individual who was my co-founder partner at StratApp called Ash Richardson. And with my technology background and Ash's consulting background with Accenture and also being a CEO and also built technology, we come together and looked at the problem, which was the disconnect, very simply, the disconnect between business plans, the strategy, and daily work. And we realized that both of those elements were not living in the same place. They were very static. The plan was very static, and the daily work was running off into a number of places, email. Yeah. So we came together in 2017 and put our heads and said, that's a problem that needs to be solved. And that was the birth of StratApp back then.
Fantastic. And I got to tell you, since we've been using it, we've seen such an improvement in streamlining. It's fantastic. But we'll get back to StratApp a little bit later. Maybe to kick us off, can you tell us a little bit about what are some of the biggest challenges you see companies face when they're trying to build out their strategy? And are there any unique challenges when it comes to building out a customer success or customer experience strategy, or is it pretty much just the same challenges, just a different flavor to the focus?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I love the word simple. And I think the number one challenge I've seen is which we sometimes make it too complex. But we over make things more complex and we're searching for things to put in there as opposed to making it very simple to where we need to go. I think that is the first thing. And the second thing, which is really interesting, it's one of the things we've found at StratApp as we've been launching new clients over the past 12 months is there's a lot of organizations out there that maybe aren't necessarily, if they ever made it too complex, they actually are not quite sure what the definition of strategy is.
Right.
And therefore they get hung up on what that definition is and they want it perfect before they launch it out to the teams, which, to be honest, strategy doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be clear. So the challenge is, to me, is that it's either overcomplicated or it's not clear enough, and therefore for people to follow that is very difficult. And we help organizations simplify that framework for their teams and individuals across the organization.
I think that's such a key thing, isn't it? Because it is that clarity and simplicity of it, just to be understood, is so important. There are, I know in a lot of companies I've worked with, customers, it's very difficult sometimes to understand what it is, and you can absolutely see how organizations struggle with it. How do you see companies going about balancing developing a fully in-depth strategy that covers multiple years, not just 12 months, but if you look over a longer time horizon, 3 years, 5 years, versus being able to remain agile and nimble to respond to immediate needs and opportunities that come up today? Because the two can be very different.
They absolutely are different. I absolutely agree with you, Jason, because strategy in our definition, not defining the definition of strategy for a second, but the time frame of a strategy is that 12, 24 month, 36 month outlook. So if you can clearly articulate what that North Star is and where we want to go, and then how we want to get there, and be very clear on that, that's a win. Right? That's a win. Now, if we look at the short-term element of that, and that's really where a lot of organizations are getting to, and there's a lot of talk around the world right now in relation to short-term goal setting, because COVID has added that additional flavor in, well, we can't really plan 36 months out because we don't know what's happening in the next 6 months, the next 12 months. But we still think it's very important to have the strategy, the outward-looking North Star, very clear and transparent to everyone across the entire organization, because this will come back to contextual relevance as we talk about what motivates people, what's intrinsic in motivation, and knowing where people are going is very motivational. And this is a big topic right now, as you both have experienced. We've all experienced, but some more than others. Sitting in your home office sometimes can make you very isolated from where we're going. And it's a hot topic. So strategy is definitely that 12, 24 month out. And I think the idea of having that 10-year plan and that 20, it's okay, but now let's break it down. And that's what we've done within the OKR framework, the objective and key result framework, which we may talk about. And the idea is just get everyone focused around the short-term elements of how do we achieve that North Star. And typically that's done very static. And this is part of the challenge that we're helping organizations work with, is how do we give it a heartbeat? How do we give the strategy? And even before, Jason, I love the question, because even before the strategy, who is the organization? What do we stand for? And even that, for a lot of employees, especially onboarding, is very difficult to get. Who are we? What's our heartbeat? What are our values? What's our why? And we're big fans of Simon Sinek's why and Roger Martin's direction, the capabilities of an organization. So how do we give that a heartbeat? And we've put all that together so an organization can tell everyone a story. And so it's whether it's the values of the organization, the why and the direction of a company, whether it's the strategy, or whether it's the short-term focus, that now lives in one simple place. And today, that's not the case. It sits on a document, it sits on a portal, it sits in someone's mind, but it doesn't come together for every single employee to be clear on what it is we're going for. And even the day-to-day work, which we'll talk about, that's really the magic in my side, setting the direction that to me we can do, but connecting it with the daily work and making sure everyone is aligned and focused on what matters. And realizing that it doesn't matter if we're remote or not, we're a team, right? We are one organization, we're one body of people going towards a common outcome. And I'm really excited what we've been able to achieve with our organization, with our clients on that part of the journey, because where they were working in multiple places, lack of direction, we've now been able to give clear direction in a short period of time. Then you get to evolve. Right, you get to evolve it over time, which is fantastic.
I think that's so true, because you and I have had this discussion too. So many organizations really don't have that North Star defined, and you have more of a collection of tasks. And find, especially with the other thing that you said that resonates with me, is with customer success teams, they don't always know how to bring everyone on and make the team, or how to work well with the rest of the organization. This is why we're here. This is our why, even within an entire department. And so much of our audience is that customer success piece, that I think if people can get that straight, that this is why we're here and this is how we're going to bring everyone along on our journey so far. And I think a lot of people either skip that part or they don't really understand how to do it.
That bit is so important, though, isn't it? Because I think a lot of teams, and customer success is a great example. It's we're not just here as customer success. We talk often about the whole business is around customer success. There's a much bigger why. You've got to see beyond your immediate day, your immediate challenges, that immediate team. And it is this different way of thinking that is so difficult to do.
Yeah, it's a really good topic of conversation, because objectives and key results were a great framework for getting people focused around a common objective, right? It wasn't designed to be, Jason, that's your objective, and Jason, that's your, you go then run off in different directions and we'll see if you come back and achieve it. The idea was to have an objective and then everyone rallies around it. To be able to go. And even technology, I remember, and I might show my age here right now, in the 2000s when, we first put in a CRM system called Salesforce into Concur. And it was two guys in Australia before the global business had actually rolled it out. And I remember we got it. I just said there had to be a better way than Excel. But that was my simple logic. There had to be a better way than Excel to run your clients and process. And then when I got into it, I intrinsically said, you know what, it doesn't give me what I need to measure, what I need to do today to ultimately achieve the outcome I was looking for. So then I looked at Basecamp, and I put Basecamp in. It became very noisy very quickly. And then I wanted to collaborate different. I put Yammer in. It got very noisy very quickly. And what I also identified with the CRM, just going to your point, it became so isolated by behavior because it was focused on one core set of individuals. But to actually run client teams and sales teams, you actually needed marketing, you needed product development, you needed other people inside the organization to participate to help you achieve your success. But when we did a license for CRM, we just did it for the sales team, and we just asked them to fill out. And so to me, the technology that we built over that period also became very insular in the way that behavior was built. So it's a combination of multiple things: how we think as a culture, how we think through technology. And we're breaking all of those boundaries to have inclusive technology. Everything should be inclusive in the way that we think to help where we're going. And I think in COVID times, it's beautiful, right? Because people can be so far removed and remote that they're still connected in a way that really makes sense to them.
Yeah. And I love that example about CRM not being inclusive because the license restrictions and everything else. And I was talking with a client the other day, and she was saying how they're selecting a tool that they're going to use for their customer success automation. What they really liked about the one they were going for is it had pretty much like a single enterprise-wide license where this is the fee and I can let everyone use it. We can really democratize that information. And I think that's going to be so key.
It's a very different way of thinking, isn't it? But something like that, I think you are going to start to see big shifts around that because you're still seeing a lot of businesses stuck to a usage license model based on people. And that has to change because how do you get that buy-in, exactly to your point, Marty? How do you get it to be an organization-wide way of thinking that everybody understands?
Yes, yeah. I agree 100%. And that was one of the passions that we had at StratApp. But when we talk about strategy, we very much are talking about the company, right? So it's the company direction, it's the company North Star, it's the company vision, it's the company why. But it was really how did we then break that down in such simple terms? I'll come back to that simple and measurable, because measurability drives accountability. But then what we got really passionate about was how do we build a set of tools that really enable the individuals and the teams to be able to align, collaborate, and execute in the way that they want. The beautiful part of it is it's aligned to the outcome where we all said we need to go, which gives that smallest of tasks that I have to do today 100% contextual relevance to why I'm doing it, because I know it's going to help us achieve that. And that's a powerful model. It doesn't matter if you're together or you're remote. That's a powerful model when people truly can see it in a way that's so simple and they do get motivated. And so we really took liberty not just to do the strategy and the OKRs because or the short-term focus of OKR frameworks, that's not okay to do anymore. We went to the next level and said, let's go build the project management tools and let's go build the meeting note management tools and the task management and the collaboration and risk management. Let's build all of these elements that we just do day to day, the day-to-day behavior things. They're things you and I are going to do today and everyone on the planet's going to do today. But today we ask people to go to 10 different places to do it. We've just built that nice little framework to make sure that it's so simple for us to do our job and be engaged in what matters. And we'll also talk about how do we embrace, I've got a great story that we might get onto about a young gentleman who's a client in South Africa, and seeing a young 26-year-old individual move inside the technology the way he did was just insane. And he actually shared something with me. He goes, every time I work in StratApp, he loves ideas. He's actually a marketing individual. And he put some of 38 ideas in StratApp in the first 24 hours. And he said to me, he goes, Martin, you know what? This is so cool because before I do it on a piece of paper or I'll have a Post-it note, or now I can just put it into StratApp and then I can tie it to my plan and really see where those ideas are actually driving. But the other thing is the ideas are coming in. Where today, if we put it on a piece of paper, we know 90% of the ideas sit on a piece of paper. Right? Let's create an environment that everyone can engage, not just on their jobs, what they're passionate about and get them an avenue in the business to allow them to breathe in a way that really excites them. And we're creating that. And I'm really excited about that. That's the piece I'm truly excited about, right? Because enabling individuals and teams, to me, is the power of what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. That really is fantastic, and getting people to move into that. What am I doing on a day-to-day basis? You know, I think one of the things I found with a lot of teams, especially with customer success teams, is I hear all the time, like, I've got so much work to do, and I've got so many customers I've got to service. How do I decide what not to do? And how do I make sure I'm doing the right things? And how do I stay relevant?
Great question.
Across the organization's doing that. And I think that's a tough one.
That's the hardest thing, isn't it? It's knowing where to say, no, I'm not doing this, or this actually comes down the list. And don't be reactive. And we're all guilty of it, just jumping on something when it comes in. And this kind of helps you strategize a lot more about it, understand when you should do it.
And it does. And it's not just the company strategy or the division or the team, it's the individual strategy.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we did an implementation with a client the other day, and it was really interesting. We had 10 people in a room, and they were client success teams. And one individual asked the question, he goes, Marty, how in all of this, I see that we're going to set up the work board and we're going to have the clients and it's all great. Everyone's going to be able to participate and collaborate in one space. But how do I prioritize the important over the other things?
Yep.
And the fact that they asked the question was so blissful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we've created it. There's priorities in there. You can create things as critical and important and routine, and you can just simply filter down your week in your day to the point that you're so laser focused on what you define as important and not. And really what we're trying to do, when I talk about enable with a set of frameworks, we're really trying to ask people to be accountable and to, if I could give you the perfect set of tools, would you take the time to really do the right thing for you and your team? That's the question, because I think today we are failing our teams, we're failing our individuals, because giving them an email and a social thread that goes into the abyss and Google Docs and a Excel spreadsheet, and that's how we're going to manage our business, I think we're ultimately failing our teams for success. And again, a big motivator of what we're doing at StratApp, because say build the plan and verbalize it and say, hey, Marty, go do. Then Marty looks there and goes back to his email and punches out a bunch of emails, but he's really not prioritizing what's important in that emails. He just sees activity. Right? And I've always said, if you leave people to their resources, busy is relevant until it's not. And it's ultimately not relevant when you come to the performance management piece and they say, we didn't achieve what we said we wanted to achieve. And so I think companies and leaders have to take more responsibility for enabling that work framework for our teams to be successful, and not just be okay to say, here's a CRM, go and answer it, or here's a Google Doc and add in your details and your updates, right? That's not the space that we're working in. And by the way, the next generation, which I call the now generation, they won't accept that. Right, they'll find a better way to work, and in many cases, they'll leave us behind. They'll leave our generation behind. So that's the opportunity that we've got in front of us right now.
Very true. Marty, let me ask you, I keep reading more and hear more people talk about OKRs. I know there's a lot of people out there who have never done an OKR model or have heard the term but don't really understand it a whole lot. I know you guys have done some work in this space. What are OKRs, and how could a team use them to really make sure they're focusing on those right priorities?
Yeah, I'm really going to try and keep this simple. Right, so to me, everything has to be kept simple. And what StratApp is not necessarily about is methodology. We're not a methodology tool. And it's really, okay, objectives and key results are interesting for me because I too am learning about them more and more. And as I've seen OKR tools roll out across the world, the reality is a lot of them have been twisted and bent to make what the company thought was the definition of an objective and key result, which turned out to be a bunch of actions. And that's not the purpose behind the objective and key result, the OKR framework that was famous by Google. And so the objective and key results is simple. And the way that I look at it, because I look at it as steps, right? You've got your strategy, which is that 12-month out, which Jason Noble, you mentioned at the front end, right? That planning, that 12, 24 months and 36 months out. And the OKR framework is really looking at the short-term focus. So to achieve that, what are the things that we need to do now and make sure that we just get so right? There's non-negotiable. We have to get these 3, 4, 5 things. And this is where some people have actually taken the objective framework, and we've seen companies have hundreds of objectives and key results. That really wasn't the design. It was really designed to have a small amount of objectives and then feed the key results off that. What are the things that we need to do to achieve that objective, and make sure that they're very clear and measurable. Right? The key results are the measurability side of it. So really that's the way that we're working with our clients. And you say, you know what, some people don't, it's just, and I jumped into LinkedIn this morning, guess what? OKRs are all over it. Yeah. Right? It's just a real big topic right now. But you know what, my advice to your listeners is don't be scared of them. Mm-hmm. But don't worry about doing a million readings on what the definition of are. It's very simple, clear objective to achieve an outcome, which is part of your strategy. And then what are the things that you need to do to achieve that objective? And then you overlay the org design to get the body of work moving. And that's really where I see OKRs and the way that we're introducing our clients that have never seen it, it's so beautifully simple. Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is don't hesitate. It's a bit like strategy. Some people go, well, do I know what a strategy is? When I look at, I've got to document it now. Is it really a strategy? Don't worry about it. Just start somewhere, because the idea of evolution is that you'll just get better and better as you're seeing people working and you're learning from that working. Mm-hmm. You'll get sharper. And I've got a great example, and it's actually a local example here in Brisbane. And that in 3 weeks, they achieved more visibility into their business than they've had in their 5 years of operations. In 3 weeks, and it's amazing. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sit down with that organisation in their second period of OKRs, and guess what? We're going to help them get sharper at it. And they said this is an evolving practice, but guess what? I've now got people all around the world focused on something. I've got people around the world which I was struggling through Google Docs and all these shared documents to participate and via Slack. And now they're participating on an outcome. You should see the threads that are going just in that one page, and they're breathing and they're moving. Hey, we've got this. Congratulations, Jason. And people are now breathing themselves. And so that's, to me, the power of OKRs. And the other way to think about it, because I'm working with a client success team right now, is, you know, OKRs are for everyone to ensure that they're on track. Right? It's not just for the business. And this is where some people really might go do a consulting job, and I get these OKRs or these actions, they just tend to give you a bunch of tasks. Right? There's all these tasks that need to get done. OKRs isn't talking about tasks. OKRs is talking about a clear line of sight of what we need to do within a time frame, and then the things we're going to do to achieve it and how we're going to measure against it. When you get a group of people working around that, that can be a really powerful, but the trade-off is it's not just a business tool, it's an individual tool to make sure I'm doing the right things. I'm waking up every day. Jason Noble, you mentioned it. I'm prioritizing the things that I need to do to make sure that is what we said we needed to do to get to where we wanted to go. That helps me. And so we've really gone down to that individual level. And so that's how we're rolling out OKRs across our organization, but they're an incredibly powerful tool. But keeping it simple, clear and measurable is, to me, the magic behind the OKR framework.
I think that they are really powerful when used, and that's the difficulty. And I think there is still I've worked in organizations where they're misunderstood and not used. And I think there's a risk when they're misunderstood of it being completely wrong. What I like about it, there's a lot of ways of thinking of OKRs, that it goes from the individual up to the team, up to the function, up to the business, and everybody's contributing to the overall strategy, which I think is so critical. What do you think, Marty, that companies should do to make sure they're selecting the right OKRs? Like you said, you could have organizations that have a significant number of them, which can be counterproductive, but how do you go about selecting the right ones? And then if we focus specifically on customer success, how should a customer success leader within a business set and manage OKRs for their teams?
Yeah, there's actually a really good article actually on our website on this that was penned by my co-founder partner, Ash Richardson. And it says that it's a roadmap for what not to do to set up OKRs. So it talks about what not to do. And it basically says, don't start with strategy, right? Because sometimes the strategy can disjoint what you're going to focus on, because it's so far. Sometimes the strategies, and every organization is different, but if you just have a lens and said what I need to do for the next month or the next 3 months, right? That is a really good way to say, well, these are the top 3 things that we need to do. So my first piece of advice is really looking, because you've got to strategy is taking all factors into consideration. Now, not just what you want to do and your direction starts, why you lose, what's the competitive threats, All of those things are the definition of strategy, and that's complex by nature. Just setting a North Star isn't strategy, so I should have clarified that up front. But when you go to the objective, you're just looking at the short-term outcome of that. But the other thing too, just on advice, don't see it as an individual or a team or an individual thing. Because what I have seen with objectives and key results is, hey, this division has that, and that individual has that, and that sort of stuff. There's no job on the planet that one person is just responsible for. So the objective and key result is a business outcome. It's a business outcome. It's a whether we put the team or the group or the company around it, we haven't decided yet, but it's really something that the business needs to do to get where we need to go. And so then when you put it around, so the first one is making it simple. Oh, I say the word simple. The second one is don't make too many objectives. That's not the design behind them. There's a lot of things we need to do in a business, but just to do something really well in the next 3 months, you can't do a million things, right? So select 3 or 4 things. That's it. There's even 1 or 2 for some organizations. Just select those things to do really well, and then the key results can flow from that. So just making sure that there's just not too many there. And the other side of the equation is don't make them individual. That's not the design. And this is a new way of thinking as well, because our organization tends to be hierarchy driven, and we split goals up and you do that, Jason, you do that, Marty, you do that. That's not how the world's going to flow in the future. And we've got the first platform to really ensure that people are focused around everyone coming together to achieve a common outcome, whether it's objective, key result, whether it's a success of a meeting or a task we assigned, it doesn't matter, but everyone should be coming together. They're the 3 things. Keep it simple, only do 3 to 4, and then ensure that when you're doing it, you're not isolating individuals. Everyone is now responsible for achieving these things. And I think if you do it those 3 ways, you're going to improve everything: engagement, culture, performance, all the things that we want on the marketing slides that said this is the outcome of our technology. That's how you get it, is when everyone truly believes they're around something.
And what I like about that is I can see the power of OKRs within your own organization, but even using them with customers. In customer success, where I was talking about what's the next QBR or EBR. We have a meeting with our customers once a quarter for business review. As part of that process, you usually agree an OKR for joint success with your customer, what you're going to do. And this is what we're going to achieve together. And that'd be very, very
I love that. You just gave me goosebumps, Jason. There's a true belief here that, that was just so awesome, because we spent a lot of time talking about the team, that if you rally the team around where we want to go and how we can get there, and we're there together, our client fits in that bucket as well. Right? So there's even isolating client, where we work internally on a great tool. Let me give a self-plug for a minute, a great tool called StratApp, because everything's sitting in one app. And then we go to email to talk to our client, or other meetings to talk to our client. No, you can actually do that inside StratApp. You can invite them as a guest. They can even see how we set up meeting agendas and what we're working on and how we're doing it. So to give your client that level of visibility and engagement on how you're helping them be successful, oh, I love that. I'm all in for that. And it simplifies your world, but it simplifies the client's world as well. And the level of success you're going to have, and buy-in and engagement and just being together, especially in a remote framework. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So I guess then coming up on our final question here, because we're running a bit out of time here, what should a new customer success leader, maybe someone who's not had a lot of experience with strategy development and execution, what should they do like in their first 90 days to make sure they've set themselves and their team up for success? What are the basics? What are the most important things to get right up front?
I think it's interesting, because I went to, when you do OKR strategy, don't start with strategy.
Yep.
But in this one, I'm going to reverse it a little bit. If I'm a client success person, I'm looking at where I'm going.
Yep.
I'm looking at where we want to be and what are the things that we need to do, because the short-term focus allows us to get where we want to go. And if I'm talking about client success and how we actually engage and how we rally everyone around the common good of where we want to go, including internal stakeholders and external stakeholders, know where you're going first, but then get super clear. And the other one for me is document it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's so many things that we do in relation to, we've got great ideas, and we're going to want to do this, and I want to do that, and I write it down on a piece of paper, and my world is good. And then we go get into day-to-day grind and busy. on reactive stuff, we lose sight of what it is that we were going to do. And this goes back to Jason Noble's prioritization side of it. If you document it in a way that's super clear, everyone understands it, internal and external stakeholders, you can constantly keep on checking back, am I doing the right things to get where we need to go? So have your out goal, have it very clear, document it in StratApp, if I could say, but in a system, not paper. We've got to remove ourselves from this position in a system that everyone has visibility to. Right? The last piece I will say, the best, easiest way to measure that too, there's a lot of discussion around inclusive and exclusive collaboration. And this is a really powerful one, especially if we're talking about client success, because Jason Whitehead, if you and I have a conversation and Jason Noble's involved, and that's all designed around how do we make something successful, we just excluded Jason Noble from the conversation. Mm-hmm. Right? That's an exclusive collaboration tool. That's a conversation that was purposely designed for the three of us to move something forward. So really at StratApp, we're driving very heavily towards inclusive collaboration. Whether Jason Noble participates or not, he can see how we're talking, he can see how we're thinking, and he can contribute in a way that can meaningfully move something forward when he can see it. But if we can't see it, it's exclusive collaboration. And this to me is another big one, especially if we're talking around client success, because no one person is going to achieve the outcome. We've got to collectively do it as one. Yeah.
I think it is that exclusive collaboration. It's almost not collaboration, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. And I love the way of thinking. Marty, this has been such a cool conversation. Really massive thank you. Appreciate you having to get up very early as well. What we always like to do as part of our podcast is at the end of them is really give our kind of guests what we like to call a kind of a bold challenge question. The one we want to give to you is, what bold actions would you challenge a customer success leader to take starting today for them to improve their customer success strategy over the next 30 days or so? So what kind of bold things can a customer success leader do today, thinking about what you've said about strategy and OKRs to help them improve their customer success strategies?
I love the word bold, because bold for me is don't accept. If something is broken, don't accept it.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
And I'm a technologist, so I look at tools, right? If there's something there within your framework today that is letting you down, that is letting your team down, that is letting your clients down, make change happen. Right? Do not sit there and accept it because this is where we have come from, which the hierarchy tends to hand down what they think is right because they've made a business decision, but they sometimes fail to see what we need within our teams and our groups and what we ultimately need to go. So I would challenge that. If there's something just not working right within your structure, challenge it and make change happen. And don't be quiet about it. Really make change happen, because that will empower you, it will empower your team, and it will lead your team in a new direction when they see that action happen as well. Because if the leader's frustrated, you can guarantee the individuals within the teams are frustrated as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And Marty, thanks. We really appreciate your insights and a lot of great work that you're doing in the space. And I'm a huge fan of what you guys have done and learned so much from you. As we close out here, we want to invite you to give a quick shameless plug for StratApp or any other initiative you have going on, and let people know how they can reach you and how they can learn more.
Yeah, I think I've shamelessly plugged all the way through. So
keep going.
Yeah. Pity it's not visual because I've got StratApp on my t-shirt. That's how bad I am. I'm a walking billboard. So yeah, it's just, I think the thing about when I think about strategy and daily execution, it works for companies of all sizes.
Yep.
So whether you're a small company of 3-5 people, whether you're a company of 50,000, and I've got sole operators as clients, and we've got really large clients who are using our tool today. So really, it's a universal problem, the disconnect between a static framework called strategy and daily work. And if that's something that you really want to solve, and how do you actually then drive everyone around the collective and to the common purpose and the common direction, but then how do you enable your teams with a simple set of tools instead of sending them off into the abyss of tools that then drives lack of clarity and visibility and direction. StratApp is perfect for that. So really, it's a tool for all organizations from that. If you want to learn more about StratApp, you can definitely reach out to the Jasons, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Marten Jagers, which I think, Jason, you will post. And also our website, stratappsas.com. have a look at that, and you can jump on and contact us, and also have a free trial of StratApp as well.
Fantastic, thank you. And we'll include links in the show notes below. And as Marty said, you can always reach out to me. More than happy to lend my 2 cents of using StratApp. I'm a big fan. But thank you so much for being here.
Thanks,
All right.
Marty. It's been a really cool conversation.
Yeah, really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
Take care.